All right, thanks everyone for joining us for, I think, the final session of Geoscience. So it's great to see everyone in the room here interested to hear about infrastructure and energy. So thanks to our sponsors for this session, BMC Minerals, Cannor, and Yukon Government. So our first speaker this afternoon will be Gary Gazankas, talking about shaping the territorial energy landscape, a collaborative approach. Gary is president and CEO of the Yukon Development Corporation. He's a seasoned professional with over 25 years of experience in the utility sector, specializing in all facets of an integrated electrical utility, including generation, transmission, and distribution. His expertise spans diverse energy sources, including hydro, wind, solar, and thermal power. Gary has excelled in energy strategy, capital project planning, operations, and asset management. Holding a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and a Red Seal electrician certification, he combines technical knowledge with leadership skills. Known for fostering strong stakeholder relationships, Gary is committed to delivering safe, reliable, and sustainable energy solutions while driving innovation and efficiency. So please join me in welcoming Gary to the stage.
Well, thank you very much for that intro. That's probably the best one I've ever received, so it's wonderful. I wonder if I wrote that. Can't remember. Well, thank you, everyone, for obviously being here. I mean, this is a wonderful event. I'm very thankful for having, been given this opportunity to be able to, stand up here today and work with individuals and have conversations about what a territorial energy strategy could look like in the Yukon as we move forward. I am not going to be presenting a territorial energy strategy today. The title may be a little misleading, but that's a collaborative effort that we all need to go through and an exercise in the next year or two. And I hope that today we get some thought moving forward as to how we can do that and get our minds thinking. So with that, I'll start off. Of course, I'd like to acknowledge we're on the traditional territory of the Tonquachin Council and Kwandam First Nation. Again, very thankful to be here, and I love this building. It's fantastic. It's always a pleasure to present at this facility. So thanks again for having me here. So just a quick agenda. I mean, we're going to go through purpose of today intro. I think it's important for people to understand who YDC is. It's kind of a bit of an anomaly, and so I want to really present that today so individuals have an understanding of who YDC is and what we're going to be doing moving forward. I want to talk a bit about a foundational item as energy as an enabler, not just energy keeping the lights on. And I think that'll form the basis of how we begin our strat planning journey together moving forward. And the next one is just what we do know, and if as I go through that exercise, I think it's important that we, at the end of this, that we're all on the same page of the current landscape of energy in the Yukon, because it's going to form the foundation and the basis from where we can start. It's really just getting common ground. Current situation, what's happening here, challenges in front of us, and then of course the wonderful opportunity we have to be able to shape the landscape in the future. Oops. There we go. So again, today's purpose, I'm not rolling out the energy strategy. This is just really having a conversation on initiating that strategy. Want to engage individuals, and I'm really looking forward to providing some thought-provoking information, and also having the conversation afterwards. So the questions, hopefully they come fast and furious at the end of them, and at the end of this. And if I can't answer the question, I'll certainly get back to you. Again, the conversation is critical, and really the goal today is to move forward. All of us thinking of what the future looks like here in the Yukon for energy. So who is YDC? I mean, it's a bit of an anomaly. I mean, YDC's had various roles over the years. A lot of times they've dabbled in long-term energy planning, next-gen hydro, et cetera, and then they'd kind of go away. But in general, YDC is the sole shareholder of YDC, and we do provide oversight of YDC, working collaboratively with them. We're essentially their banker as well. We do have a mandate, and that mandate is assuring and continuing an adequate supply of energy in the Yukon in a manner consistent with sustainable development, alleviating the effects of any energy shortage that may occur in the Yukon, and promote the establishment, development, and operation within Yukon industries or undertakings that are by nature energy dependent through the provision of cost-effective energy or energy-related infrastructure. Arguably, we haven't done a very good job on the first two, unfortunately, because this is where we are today. Problems. And really a focus on, taking the lead in shaping the energy landscape in the Yukon. Previously, President and CEO position held at YADC was formerly, typically with DMs and other departments. And so, when you look at the government, this government's commitment to shaping the energy landscape in the future, I've been hired to specifically focus on, these long-term energy strategies, working with YEC and their capital programs, working with, proponents on whether that's geothermal or hydrogen, hydro, wind, solar, batteries. So there's a real commitment there, and pretty much the first full-time president and CEO of YDC in a long time, or if in fact ever. So this here, energy is not just about keeping the lights on, and this is it's deeply intertwined with our social norms and beliefs and values. It's a holistic system, basically a relationship with nature and the environment. And I think if we take that approach more than just wires, turbines, machines, et cetera, I think this is probably the best place where we can start. And it is an enabler. I believe it's foundational. It will help enhance social programs, health and well-being, education and capacity building, environmental sustainability and economic development. So I think, taking a step back, really recognizing what it means and having that good starting place, I think is extremely important. So what we do know, and I think, again, just reiterating, we want to really be on common ground as we move forward, because without that, then I think we essentially are in a position of chaos where individuals think one way or the other. And I think at some point, all of this has to converge where we're all on the same page moving forward collectively. But this is what we do know, and this is factual. On average, we do have, or 90% of the electricity generated is renewable. We've been very fortunate that someone had the vision way back to build transmission and to build hydro facilities. And obviously now with load growth electrification, that's, it's less and less prevalent, I guess, in its ability to be able to deliver what we have today on our load. But that is a fact. A little education, just so people understand what capacity and demand is. So electricity demand refers to how much electricity customers use at once. If you think of our system like a 10-lane highway, demand is the number of cars on a highway or on the road at any given time, and it changes frequently. Capacity is essentially, I'll say, YEC system's capability to provide power to meet the highest peak demand times. So in the highway example, capacity is like the number of lanes on a highway. We don't need all 10 lanes, but we need them built so we're able to meet the rush hour demand, no matter how many cars you put on it. And when you look at the system today, we're not there yet, but there's almost, we're lacking lanes and we have too many cars. And so we need to build that infrastructure, and what that looks like from a strategic perspective, I think, is very important. What we do know that the increased population and electrification caused a new peak demand, and this is in 2018, was 118 megawatts. I heard this morning we were hovering around 95, 96 megawatts. This resulted in this winter capacity gap. And so people have probably always seen these diagrams where, here's our current gap, and what's the red? The red is the rental, the diesels we have currently on the system. Today's solution, it's the only solution today that we have that we can readily make available, in order to actively manage and provide an adequate supply, security of supply. And what that totals today is approximately 40 megawatts. And this is expected to increase, by 35% by 2030. And I think that stat is really just relating to population growth. When we start looking at mining development, et cetera, this number goes up significantly. So what we do know, aging infrastructure. This is a picture of the Wareham spillway for the Mayo hydro assets. And I believe this was a couple years ago during freshet. The flows caused the concrete to fail. And obviously there's an individual fixing it. Right now we're in good shape. It's repaired. However, they have plans for significant construction up there to refurbish this facility in the magnitude of 150 million over the next 4 years. And that's just this facility. So if you look at the aging infrastructure across the Yukon, we have hydro facilities built in the 50s and 60s that need to be refurbished, transmission lines that are 50, 60 years old as well. So significant spending in the next 5 to 10 years. Also, where we are today is, you've seen the chart on the capacity gap. We know we need energy. My thought is that we need all the energy we can get. And why I say that is, recently there was an announcement for a study to move the BC Yukon Grid Connect project forward. And there's, from what I've heard in the community, or not community at large, but there are thoughts that a Grid Connect project, in fact, would kill all local renewable energy projects, but that's absolutely not the case. In my opinion, we need all the energy. We need all the energy we can get. This Grid Connect project will, in fact, help facilitate renewable energy projects, because business cases start to become a lot more attractive when you're able to get rid of your summer surplus. So it makes a lot of sense. Also, we need to close the gap. We have 40 megawatts of rental generators now. This grid project, if in fact it goes ahead, is still 10 to 15 years out. And so we absolutely need those projects moving forward. The other side of that is, I can legitimately say that YG is currently promoting and will continue to promote the local renewable energy projects. And they'll do that through the Innovative Renewable Energy Initiative. So we currently manage a grant funding program through Yukon Development Corporation to provide feasibility money for renewable energy projects. This year it's been extremely successful. We've seen pump storage projects come through. We've seen wind battery projects come through. We've also seen just general hydro projects come through. And with a lot of First Nations leading those projects, which is just absolutely fantastic. It's not either or. It's absolutely, we need it all, especially when we're looking at low growth just with the community of 30-some% by 2030. Never mind the significant mining activity that we're looking at, moving forward in the future as well. So this is I shouldn't say this is the way my brain works, but maybe sometimes. This is what's happening today, and I'll go into a little more detail, but there's a lot of great things happening. There's individuals working on a number of different studies and proposals, et cetera, but it is not a unified approach. We're trying to share information as best we can, but my opinion is this is where we are today, and we need to change that, and part of the rationale for me being up here today. So basically, what's here is some of the things that we're doing. And this is just a short list. There is more. We have our clean future, and there are strategic items there that we need to work at delivering. YEC has their short-term action plan. They have an integrated resource plan. There's aging infrastructure. We have system capacity issues. There's the IPP policy, the IPP projects, the microgen, and the pause. We also have a system study right now for intermittent renewables. We have our Erie program, which I mentioned. There's Atlan Hydro Project, the BC Yukon Grid Connect assessment. a grid modernization study. I'm sorry for going on and on, but you can get an appreciation of all the things that are happening out there, and not necessarily, significant collaboration or a unified approach. There's demand side management discussions. There's First Nations, investment strategy that we're working on, and we need to, get in front of the First Nations on that. And First Nations in themselves have their own energy strategies. Federal funding programs, the Regional Energy Resource Table, which is a federal table that meets to bring First Nations and territorial governments together to be able to help prioritize their energy their energy projects. And then also the ATCO initiative. So you can see, without this being coordinated, that we're going to have challenges moving forward in the future. So again, this is the challenges in front of us. This is a fragmented approach. It's not unified. There's no one voice or one plan. There are funding limitations. So I think if we're not going together, there's going to be too much competition for funding, and we may not get the projects that add the most benefit to the Yukoners as a whole, which will be problematic in the future. And that comes down to what comes first. And there needs to be a balance. And without a collaborative approach, projects could get brought forward that are somewhat detrimental to the Yukon system and Yukoners. And I'll use this as an example. And this is where I'll talk about affordability, clean power and reliable power. We had the Microgen IPP program, amazing uptake with the solar projects, absolutely phenomenal. We've embraced it. I'm not here criticizing that. I think it's fantastic. However, because we are an islanded grid, we have challenges with stability to begin with, and that has exacerbated some of the issues. So that's why we've gone and paused the Microgen program until we can get a handle on what's happening. There will be, we're doing the study now, there will be solutions coming out of that. But there's a perfect example where there was a mismatch in balance, where we were looking at the clean side a little more so than possibly reliability or affordability. So we've got to be very careful as we move forward. And without this approach where we're all talking together, this is the situation we could continuously be in, which isn't good. So again, I mean, can sit here all day and talk about what we do know around the capacity issues, and how long it takes to get things done, et cetera, et cetera. But the big thing is that with the issues, there are opportunities, and I think that's key. We flip that into, here is the opportunity in front of us. I think it's an amazing opportunity. I think Yukoners are an interesting lot, and what I mean by that is they're very passionate, and we're able to move things forward, I think, at a fairly rapid pace, and it's amazing. And the example of the Microgen and IPP program is a perfect example of that in the uptake in solar, which is great. But we need one voice, and I personally believe that ideally this is First Nations leading. I need to have more conversations with First Nations, on a number of different fronts, as we all do. But I believe that that is absolutely key and critical to move forward with developing this energy strategy. We need alignment. Basically what I said before is, what problems are we actually trying to solve? And we need to think that through collaboratively, or otherwise we run ourselves into some trouble again. And then there's this, I believe, a requirement for a comprehensive territorial energy strategy. I think that, if we all go together and we build this energy strategy, First Nations leading the way, we have industry, mining industry at our side, we have municipalities, government support. I think that, presenting and selling, a strategy to the federal government or whoever else wants to invest in the Yukon in energy, I think is critical. I don't think it's insurmountable. I think we're poised to do that, and I think that that's where we need to go, starting in the new year. I think something like this, of this significance, is going to take about a year to build because of all of the the feedback and the interactions that need to happen with communities at large, but very critical. So we need this energy roadmap and a one territory approach for federal funding asks. So next steps, really. I think we all would agree that something needs to be done. We know that we're renting diesel generators right now. We can see them when we come into town. We know something has to happen. I think we all agree that, or at least I hope we do. I'm putting thoughts into everyone's mind here, but I think, you know, it's important that we agree that we need to do this together with one voice. I again highlight the fact that ideally First Nations are leading this. YDC is obviously there to support along the way. And then I use the word utilize, so leveraging some of these other, you know, initiatives or tables that are out there now to be able to start to communicate this and what we're looking at doing in the future. So this regional energy resource table, I mentioned it previously, and then obviously leveraging this, the Yukon BC Grid Connect project to move forward. You know, as part of that project, we're going to need to know, you know, what the potential mining activity is going to look like. We're going to need to know how much local renewable energy we can develop in the interim as part of that, so we can work and fund some of those thoughts and those processes and tables out of this grid project to be able to drive the economics out of it and move forward. And you know, I think the biggest thing is, you know, starting in the new year, I'm going to start to have conversations to kick this off and get individuals to the table to start having these serious conversations. And you know, the last point is just, you know, how do we start? And I guess today is the start of that, I'm hoping, and we'll just keep going with this in the new year. Just our logo and kind of our new slogan is just generating Yukon's future with YDC. So that's all I had. Thank you. Appreciate it. Questions? Questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just, I don't think I disagree with anything you say. I think First Nations, you've got a keen interest in infrastructure for the territory. A lot of it dealing with food security, particularly with the decline for subsistence yields. But that requires energy. I guess I have more of a strategic question for you. Mm-hmm. You know, when I look at the power grid failures, not just here, but across North America, Europe, elsewhere, and what strikes me, and maybe I'm just elementary here, but nonetheless, I think the strategy should really identify the pros and cons between having a centralized electrical system versus a decentralized one. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because I think a decentralized electrical grid gives you a lot of redundancy versus one where you have a more centralized one and you have more of a risk of a catastrophic failure. That's just my elementary thoughts, but I want to hear you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. You know, it's a good question, and you're putting me on the spot, which is great. I know, which is great. I think there's pros and cons to both, and certainly not here to debate. I think that I know you're not meaning that, you know, decentralized means isolated and independent. But what I say is that because we're interconnected doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not saying that right. We're isolated. I think that it's something we definitely have to think through as part of a strategy. There's no question. But when we look at, you know, first food security and we look at further development in the Yukon, having a centralized system, you know, a connection to somewhere else, that added security, plus we continue on with building, like I had mentioned, all the other generating facilities, I think provides more resilience. I think that's the key word, is resilience, against, you know, storms and climate change, rather than a centralized system which can, or decentralized, which can only grow so big as well, based on, you know, what we have here today. So I don't know if I answered that question very well.
Oh yeah, sorry everyone, there is an emergency alert test.
That timing was off. It should have been a couple minutes ago as I stumbled through that great question. Yes, you did. But yeah, pretty much all I have to say on that. I didn't really answer it all that well, but I
understand, I just think it's a food for thought.
absolutely. I think so. But again, when you start to talk about additional load and food security, I couldn't agree more. And my thought is more of a resilient grid that's able to manage that. And I think as if we build out all local renewable energy projects plus connection to another jurisdiction provides that resiliency and reliability, potentially. Okay, other questions? Come on. There we go.
Someone else does. Four quick.
$40 million study to study interconnect with BC.
Yes.
Have we studied that already? Why don't we just get on with it?
We have had some studies on this before, fairly minor, tabletop exercises. I mean, this is more than a study. What I would say is that, over the next 4 years, this gets us, from where we are today to a point where we're shovel ready. This is where we need to be. But we're not shovel ready. We need to obviously work with First Nations first and foremost. We need to look at partnership ownership models. We need to look at the permitting aspects, the design, the routing. Even design and routing. That gets selected based on the opportunities that are presented in each of the territories. So it's a significant exercise to go through all that. Hey, believe me, I'd love to just start. There's no question. But this is serious money to get us to a point where we're shovel ready. All we've had is our studies before that say either yes or no or give some recommendation. And since the last study, there's been a lot that's changed in the Yukon. Load growth, electrification, mining. I can go on and on. So that's, my response.
So just as a follow-up, maybe it's been sold badly. Maybe it's not a study. Maybe it's the first step to something.
Absolutely right. And I'll be honest, I mean, this was handed to YDC back in, a few months back. And obviously the announcement just came out in September. And so I haven't done a very good job in actually getting out to the public to communicate, what this project is. And so that's on me, but that is coming. My first step though, prior to doing that, because we haven't started anything, there's no RFPs, is really to have meaningful conversations with First Nations first, and then from that, go on and start to do public announcement, open houses, CBC radio interviews, et cetera, to communicate better. So thank you for that. It's a good, knock on the chin in my court, recognizing I have to do something in the future here quickly.
So the idea of a First Nation Power Authority or First Nation utilities being floated a few times over the past few years.
Yep.
And that could potentially provide a coordinating force that you're looking for. But a major barrier to that is the Public Utilities Act, the need for enfranchisement.
Yeah,
Something that would be on the table.
absolutely. I think that ideally that's what that looks like, is if there, if I could draw a little bit of a parallel with, the First Nations Communications Limited Partnership and what's happening with Northwest Tel, I would say that ideally if, we have those conversations sooner than later and get individuals interested, that's the right mechanism to put together to move this forward. It makes a lot of sense because then you have a unified approach, and believe me, I mean, this is a project where this is a nation building project. This is, a Yukon territorial project. So when we have conversations with First Nations on, what this looks like, we want to open it up to all 14. And because this is transformative, right? Similar to what they're doing with the Northwest Tel purchase, is that, even if it's not on your route, it doesn't matter. I think that everyone needs to be a part of that. So.
What's your position on hydropower, such as places been looked at in the past, like Granite Canyon on the Pelly and Fraser Falls on the Stewart? What's your position on hydropower?
I mean, I've been in the utility industry for a long time, and I gotta admit, I'm a hydro guy. I like hydro. When it's raining in the summer, I love it. It's just one of those things that's in me. So as I said before, we need to continue to move forward with local renewable energy projects, whether it's hydro, whether it's pump storage hydro, wind battery, et cetera, et cetera. And our Erie program has seen a few hydro projects come through driven and led by First Nations. So I fully support hydro development as long as it's done right.
Yeah, so do I. The other thing that's been considered in Saskatchewan is you bring this in on a flatbed truck, and when it's spent, you send it out, and the supplier takes care of it, and that's uranium. What about it? Atomic power.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and yeah, I recently had a meeting with individuals from the Canadian nuclear laboratories this week, and I believe the SMR, the small modular reactor possibility. I think it could become part of our 3-decade-long strategy. I think nuclear power is fantastic. Obviously, there's the spent fuel issue that you have to figure out, but it's a clean form of energy. They're not there yet, and it's going to take a while for that to mature and become somewhat commercial. But I believe that it should be part of our 3-decade-long strategy. There's no question, especially when we have significant mining activity looking at further development here in the north.
Yeah, there was an outfit from France that came up here. They
Right.
said when the uranium is spent, they just take it away and take care of it. They dispose of it for you. That's the main thing.
Well, and actually in the meeting we had this week, it sounds like they have a pathway plan of how they're going to deal with the spent fuel in the future. There's locations in Ontario, I don't know where they are, that have actually signed up to say, yeah, look, we will take this, and it's just like a mine essentially. You're putting it in the earth, you're sealing it up and putting it in the earth, and for it to deplete. Exactly. Agreed. Exactly right. And to be honest with you, I think that's a condition everywhere. I think Saskatchewan's thinking the same thing with their partnership with OPG right now, with Ontario Power Generation. It's like, okay, well, we'll set this up here, but we don't want the spent fuel. So thank you. Okay.
Just a couple of quick questions.
Yep.
Are you willing to invest significantly in geothermal? And what's the status of I think it's Wolf Lake pumped storage project? And what's life is left in the Whitehorse Dam? And twice you said we need more.
I thought you said 2. You'll have to repeat them, but yes, okay.
Twice you said we need more renewables, but you put the microenergy program on hold.
Yeah, okay, so what was your first question?
Geothermal.
Geothermal. I mean, I'm a fan of I'm technology agnostic. I mean, we've had previous meetings, and I think that if there's a business case where geothermal can provide cost-effective energy, why wouldn't we do it? If there's a benefit, an economic benefit to the ratepayer, why wouldn't we do it? So I think I don't think it's there yet. I could be mistaken, but if someone can demonstrate to me that it is, and someone has tried. No, just kidding. It's great. No, it's great stuff. And YDC we've supported, but I think it's phenomenal if in fact it's cost effective and it's something that is a benefit to the ratepayer. So that's the first question. The next one. Moon Lake. That was part of the 10-year renewable electricity plan. At this point in time, I mean, it's a line item. I think this whole energy strategy with First Nations, with the Yukoners at large is a big part of how we move any energy project forward, not just Moon Lake. And so, those are conversations that have to be had. But I think it starts with this territorial-wide energy strategy and how all of these pieces fit into that. Whitehorse Dam. So what was the question on the what?
How long is it left in its life?
Well, doesn't concrete get harder as it ages? I don't know. I'm an electrical, and yeah, I have an electrical engineering degree, but I know we're probably running out of time. But I mean, it's as long as we want to keep refurbishing and maintaining it. I mean, hydro facilities last for 60 years. You actually go and refurbish hydro unit, and they last another 60 years. We just did WH2, upgraded it 2.5 years ago. So as long as it's properly maintained in the future, it should last another 60 years. And microgen. So why the pause? As I mentioned before, we got out of balance and we're in a smaller system. And so, the system doesn't adjust well to frequency changes and frequency response. And so when you have clouds come over and an intermittent renewable energy, when you see generation drop off, it almost looks like a significant event, like something happened on the system. And if there's not enough spinning reserve to be able to pick that up and maintain it within a certain period of time, then things start tripping off to maintain that, to get the frequency back to a stability issue. So that's why the microgen pause was initiated, because it is causing stability issues in the system. Still embracing it. It's wonderful. We're doing a study. We want to look at, battery energy storage systems and other, things, equipment we can put in the system to be able to, ensure that we're managing that. Okay. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Gary. We really appreciate that. And Gary's told me before that he loves talking about this and is always happy to chat with people about it, particularly over a beer. So feel free to take him up on that opportunity and follow up with him after the fact. But yeah, really appreciate that.